I don't know. Anyway, I think enough people are here now. I can just pull Brett in. Um, she didn't do much. She didn't do much on you other than apologize for her wording. She did call you an ass, but I think you would find that acceptable, at least for the time. I mean, I don't care what she calls me. Olives are delicious. Green or black? Who the fuck's Brett? Brett is a person on Twitter. No, we do not have a chud. We have a lefty that wants to argue with me about the my overall synopsis on the Christie thing and kind of my mindset on pushing people away. We'll have that conversation like right meow. So I have pulled you into the private recording thing. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Hey, what's up?
Okay, let me see. You're a little loud, so let me turn you down. Try that?
Oh.
No, it's not your
All
fault.
right.
It's Discord every time, so.
Right.
Okay, so you seem to disagree with me, and let me see if you can tell me if I'm right or wrong about what you disagree with. But from the gist of it, it seems you disagree with me in my assertion that people like Christie, in the way that they try to police speech, and in my own words, perform what I called purity tests on people. I feel like that behavior pushes people who would otherwise be, I guess, lefties, for lack of a better term. I think that pushes those people to the right. I used the term people like Milo. But I mean, people like Shoe on Head, people like Chris Raygun, are probably closer to, well, not probably, they're definitely closer to the left than Milo. But at the time, people like Milo, where, and this is my basic premise here, people like Milo are very good at gobbling these people up, because especially Milo. I use Milo as a specific example because he's gay and he is very out loud saying like he prefers black guys, and so it's kind of the contagion of oh, my black friend, right? I have a black friend, I can't be racist. So if I like Milo, I'm not anti-LGBT. If I like Milo, I can't be anti-black, right? Because he likes black guys. So I'm also like, I'm progressive in these social fronts, but I think the left, like they keep trying to like police my speech, and they don't accept me for who I am. And someone like Milo says, "Come here, you disenfranchised young person, be it boy, girl, or in betwixt, and come over here, because whatever language you use is accepted over here, and you don't have to change. It's them who are pushing you away." And I feel like that's really appealing to a lot of people, and that's why I don't like the way Christie or Steve goes about that kind of shit. Feel free to disagree. Go, all yours.
Okay. So yeah, that sounds all good. Contrapoints to somebody that I've always watched, and that was something that she's made several videos on. She's made very good cases for how that kind of behavior is a problem. Unfortunately, it's not really going to be that spicy. I'm not like a Christie supporter or anything.
I know
like
you're
that.
not, but you seem
Right.
to be. You seem
Well,
to
that's what
be engaging in the conversation, and also we disagreed, so it made me want to talk to you.
No, I get it. I was just saying, it's not quite as spicy. The stream title is absolutely correct, but I think it would be more interesting to steer the conversation to the question of why do people go for those things? And it's pretty simple, right? If someone says that you don't have to change, well, that's a lot easier to be a part of that community. It seems like we'll accept you. Just come over, enjoy the memes, and let's have fun.
I agree. 1 second, you sound a lot like Ralph Retort.
Who is that?
Yeah, you don't know who the
No.
Ralph? He's the guy from the Kill Stream. You shouldn't watch it. It's absolutely.
Oh no,
It's the
I've heard Destiny talk about that. No.
yeah, no. He's absolutely. I mean, they're Nazis. They're like little. But I mean, you sound very close to Ralph, and for a second, I thought I got fucking punked. Just for a split second.
Oh, you don't remember me?
You don't think he
do
sounds
you?
like Ralph? No, I remember you. I just.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a fucking Nazi.
No.
Language.
You're not. Excuse your language. What?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You haven't started cussing. I don't want to just.
Oh no, I cuss constantly. You guys don't think he sounds like Ralph? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm an idiot, but that's fine. Tasha Wolfork, thank you very much. I love you deeply. Go ahead. You can continue. I'm sorry.
No problem. Yeah, so like I said, and I didn't know that you talked to Vosh until like 20 minutes ago, so I'll have to watch that video.
Talk to
really
Vosh,
like Vosh.
Destiny, Hasan, Raj Patel. Yeah.
Of those people, I'm more interested in the Vosh discussion. But
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that you had just recently done that, so I'll have to watch that because I like Vosh a lot.
Yeah, that was my second discussion with Vosh. We talked before he was banned off Twitch as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, so basically, here's where I am. I'm sort of in the middle of this conversation. It seems like, depending on the audience.
Sure.
So when I'm talking to a little bit more extreme leftists, there's this thing in their heads where they think that chuds simply cannot be redeemed. It makes no sense. We have countless, stories, like recently that Faraday Speaks guy, like he's got his own platform now. Like, it's a ridiculous thing.
Wait, Faraday Speech came around?
Speaks, yeah. Do you know who that is?
Yeah. Why can't I?
Faraday Speaks. If you're trying to look for him, I'm not looking at the stream.
Farraday, right?
Faraday.
Faraday.
Yeah, that sounds right. Faraday.
I thought it was 2 R's. Let me see.
I could send you a link if that would be easier. See how
I'm here. This reminds me a lot of Spinosaurus Can's story as well. Who
I don't know that one.
Now goes as Discord spies on Twitter.
Oh no, that guy. Yeah.
David Charette. It reminds me a lot of David Charette. Who is? I mean, now he has his pronouns in his bio, and he's not a shitlord. There are some other things you could say that he does wrong, and maybe you're right.
I could, but I won't here.
Yeah. I think
I've dealt with him before.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, we totally agree that it can be done. The question is, okay, we need to have, in my opinion, a little bit more a top-down view and an understanding of how does this happen? Why are people being pushed here? Vice has done some okay stuff on this, I guess. But I think Natalie is really the only person who's done like actual on the ground, like she spent time dealing with these people, working on conversion. She's made critiques of the left in the past that I think are still really
I think she's the only person that put the essay together and did a good job of it.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
for a crash course anyway.
Right. As far as people actually doing that, you're talking to your boy right now. I do it every day. I mean, people like Destiny, people like Avash, people like I don't know, Pig Puncher's a kind of a new person out there. There's lots of people that do this kind of shit. Hasan Piker, although to a lesser degree.
Yeah, I was thinking
he gets a little excited, but I love him. Yeah, like there's quite a few people that do this shit.
And you know what we probably agree on? Not enough.
What we all probably agree on? Not enough.
No. I'm sorry. What you and I specifically probably agree on? There are not enough figures. The fact that
I agree, and this
can count that on your hands. That's a problem,
right? And this is my major critique of Christy and Steve, specifically those two, and the people that are in their circles. Because if I tell Christy, oh, sorry, please pull your cock out and let me suckle upon it better, right? Obviously, I'm not making an assessment on her body. I'm not sexually harassing her. What I'm saying is a very dismissive and extremely crass version of prostrating myself and saying, oh, I'm sorry, must I self-flagellate myself to gain your fucking like approval? Like, obviously that's what I'm saying. And the fact that she tries to twist that shit is another reason that like the right gobbles these people up. Like, literally, if I have a kid say, and I have lots of people say lots of problematic, terrible shit all the time. Like, they'll use the F word, they'll say the T word, they'll say all these slurs, but they don't really know that it's hurtful. They just know it's edgy, right? Or they know it's like hurtful, but they don't really understand what it's capital H hurtful. It's not just like a little hurtful. It's not like, because they're usually like middle-class disenfranchised white kids, honestly, especially American and Western European type kids, and like they don't understand. They come from a place of like moderate privilege, usually, at least, or they come from a place of no privilege at all, but they a lot of people tokenize them and say like, oh, well, you're oppressed and stuff like that. Like, literally yesterday, during all of this conversation, there was a person that said to Sarah, my girlfriend, who I think you're aware of, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We talk every now and then.
Yeah. A guy, she was in a thread, and a guy said something to someone who said something he disagreed with, and he said the sentence, "You're lucky you're LGBT and a woman, because otherwise I would block you." And that is like a huge problem with these far, far left people like a Steve and like a Christy attract, because what that does is it's kind of the nice guy problem, right? Where it's not valuing someone for the right reasons. It's and I don't know how to express this in a way. I think a lot of women in here, specifically people who identify as women, get this a lot, where someone will be nice to them for literally just that fact. And it's like, so there's negative sexism where it's like, oh, you're a bitch because you're talking back to me and you're a woman or something like that, right? And so you're a bitch, girls on Twitch are thoughts, right? That kind of shit. And then there's this positive sexism where it's like prostrating yourself to women because they're women, because you are so scared of coming across as sexist, you literally commit sexism by treating them differently, even if it's it would be typically a positive thing. By being extra extra nice, it comes across as what's the word I'm looking for? Disingenuous. It comes across as right, and so
you're not treating them like a person. I got you.
Right, and this kind of shit happens constantly. It's sexist as fuck.
Oh yeah.
It's patronizing. Yeah, patronizing. Thank you.
That's the best word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would still consider that like I mean, you remember the last time you talked to me. I know it's been like 6 months, but when you say far left, I think maybe this is a total bullshit thing, but just for the purpose of our conversation, I think what you're trying to say is in maybe rhetoric and language, like
absolutely. I don't mean like on the spectrum. So how about I could say I have a hard time. I don't want to call them radicals because that invokes like an Antifa sort of thing. So I just call them far left because I'm really far left. So if I call them far left, it makes it sound just left of me, right? So I don't know. Maybe there's another word I could use for that, and that's fine. But I hate calling it like Shivesian left because, again, he's a pejorative in the community, and it's his own doing. And this is another one of my problems. But we could talk about that too.
Yeah. So I mean, so we can boil down like what you don't like about it, and it sounds like it's mostly the rhetoric, the way they go about things.
Rhetoric and policing. And pure, it has a puritanical nature to it that a lot of people on the left shirked off when they shed their religious skins. It has this sort of you have an original sin to you. You have this innate nastiness that needs to be purged, and we're the ones that are doing the purging. Through us, you can find this purity, and I know they don't use that language specifically, but it fucking comes across as such. The fact that I apologized directly to Christy 4 times, got ridiculed for it, got called emotional as if a man being emotional is a negative thing, and when she used her trans exclusionary language, saying, when I was like, what's a woman got to do in regards to a dick? Like, as far as like what's a woman have to do in regards to me bringing up a dick? Like, how is your womanhood affected by me saying anything about your dick, right? And she said, well, do I have to get a biology book out for you? Like, this is the kind of shit. Like, it's turfy, it's swerfy, it's, and I don't know that she's any of those things, but she certainly she certainly comes across as such, and it's just not helpful to anyone on the left that someone like a Christy Winters has any audience at all. And I don't want to cancel her necessarily, but it's harmful. It makes you ostracize people that otherwise would be on your team.
Okay, so see, this is where I think there's a productive conversation, because on a lot of accounts, I agree. I think, communication is so messy and nasty that sometimes we're not aware of the problems that we're, the things that we say, obviously. Natalie in the past has argued that, being on the left, we need to start creating a space where you can, kind of mess up and you won't be ostracized.
Exactly.
And it's funny because I don't know if you know the distinction between this, but on the left, there's this idea of what we have now as a punitive justice, and what we'd like to move towards is a more restorative justice. So what that means is, instead of just vengeance and expulsion and finding the person who's bad and pushing them out, it's more about, okay, when a bad thing happens, how do you rectify it so the affected parties, you don't have to be a victim necessarily, but certainly an affected party, how do you get a remedy for that person? And sometimes what it comes down to is basically just supporting, trying to get down to the root cause. Why did a thing happen? And then working on something like, how can we sort of, arbitrate this, right? To get people to kind of heal, so to speak. And I think that's sort of what we're running into. On the left, it's kind of a meme, but we talk about the prevailing ideology, right? Everything in the media where we're told, you have to look this way, you have to do this, whatever. All these power structures and all the sort of signals they're sending us, and how we sort of recreate that behavior. It's kind of like the nature nurture argument. People react to their stimulus and they do such and so forth. So we'll call this kind of liberalism, in the sense that you're still participating in things that are exclusionary and things that are not about, bringing about social justice or whatever. And I think that's the sort of splinter critique here that makes a lot of sense. The problem is when we're having conversations like this, and especially when they're this personal, like it's a thing between you and Christy, that sort of gets muddied, right? So you, like the biology book thing, I was not happy at that specific moment because I knew exactly what was going to happen. I've been in spaces where that's a little bit more sensitive than in other spaces. So you talk about the right-wing chuds, that would have gone right over their head. They wouldn't have cared.
Right.
But there's this thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
I do want to, well, just because we're on the topic, I want to bring that up because someone said, Isola Can said, she apologized for it, that being the what I and many people thought sounds this anti-trans thing with the biology book and some more shit.
Oh yeah.
By the way,
I could see that.
So these accusations are bothersome. My accusations that she is being turfy and swerfy. She apologized for it, and then this morning at noon, she again used trans people as a shield, saying, would you have said that same thing if I were trans? And again, doing this what if I was trans bullshit is fucking gross. I don't like it. It's not productive. It's anti-feminist at best. Fucking turfy,
Well,
and even if Isola Can, even if
I
I'm
get it.
misunderstanding you, there's a lot of people defending like, oh, she apologized. She continues to return to this language. I don't know that she is a TERF. I don't know that she is a swerve, but she's extremely sex negative in every conversation that she's been having on Twitter all day long, and for the past week, and the past year, and before this, when, I mean, it was like a year and a half ago when she tweeted me that. It was her very first Jordan Peterson video. Before we started the series, the very first Jordan Peterson video. It's tokenizing, it's disgusting, and I don't know why she continues to do it. It makes her look like a fucking hypocrite. It makes her I don't know, she's like using the marginalization of another group entirely to say, but if it was this group, it would be bad to do. It's like saying, hey, Jake, why are you lighting that match? If the house was on fire, that wouldn't help much. And, like, I have a match and it's lit, and I go, yeah, but I'm lighting a candle, and I light the candle. Like, obviously, that if it was a totally different situation, it would be different. But it's not a different situation. I'm lighting a fucking candle right now. I need this match to do that. Like, and that's what it is. Like, sure, she can be personally offended that I said anything about a cock. That's fine. Okay? Isola Can, I'm sorry if I misunderstood you. That's fine. She can be upset at that, and that's why I apologize to her, saying I'm sorry that happened, and that's not my intention. Here was my actual intention. But using other people as a fucking shield like that, it reminds me of, I had that debate with Boogie. I don't know if you saw it. It reminds me of the same fucking thing where he hides behind his mental illnesses, and he uses other people like fucking like bullet shields. It's fucking awful. It's actually disgusting to me.
Yeah. No, I agree. Now, so I'm with you. I don't know if she's a TERF. I've never ever seen that. I feel like I would have seen that by now. But I can see how the statement of "get out a biology book" would get to that phrase. Now, it becomes a little bit harder because in the context, it makes me wonder if that was a shorthand. Instead of saying, "Would you like to see a picture of me naked?" It was trying to sort of depersonalize it. You know what I mean?
It was in a broader context of not just
she
her.
Should have just said, "I don't have a dick." Like that would have been the
right. But then but that's the difference. But that's the difference because she wasn't trying to say, "I don't have a dick." Because if she says, "I don't have a dick," then my response to her is, "Then why are you so fucking offended?" Because it has nothing to do with your body. She would have had to admit that obviously my statement had nothing to do with her body, and so her outrage would have been fucking moot at that point. She wouldn't have been able to continue her fake outrage to try to fucking, I don't know. Some people are saying she's clout chasing or whatever. She's definitely fake outrage because this took over a fucking year and a half. A year and a half. Absolute insanity.
And I did watch the full YouTube, I guess Kevin Logan's stream.
Did you watch my stream?
I didn't watch the VOD because what I did was I watched the first of it and it seemed to line up with the YouTube video, and then at the end you guys just started talking about something totally else. So
no, we talked about no. We had it.
What happened after?
I invited women on to talk about it.
Oh, I didn't see that. No, I just saw you were going over some thread after that.
Christy wasn't even answering what I said and kept quote tweeting Christiosity and saying that the answer went. Yeah, she also said that quote tweeting was a power move and then proceeded to quote tweet like Sarah and everybody else. I mean, could she be bell towering? I don't know what that is. What's that phrase mean? Bell towering? Do you know?
Never heard of that. No. But yeah, I don't know if we want to move into that. Let me go back to the other thing I was trying to make the case for.
Sure.
So I can't just assume fake outrage, right? That seems, unless there's like an established pattern. I like
from Christy Winters.
I don't know Christy Winters that much. I saw her a few times and I was like, okay.
She drums this kind of shit up a lot. With a lot of people.
Well, in isolation, just as an observer.
Okay, in isolation, it took a year and a half to get her to do this.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Okay,
so,
sure.
In that, it sounded to me like she was trying to explain that she had a bad run-in with you, and she was like, okay, this is not someone I should talk to. Uh-huh. And she sort of did the exclusionary thing, right? Like, I'm going to put that person out of my mind. And then based on what she said after that, apparently they heard about your all's Jordan Peterson videos.
No. And the first tweet that she sent me, was saying she liked the Jordan Peterson videos.
Was this the
very first tweet from a
Suckle
year and a half ago? Yeah.
tweet?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And then she went on to say, so the reason she said that, the reason I ended up saying that is because I like your Jordan Peterson tweets. It's such a shame you invited Milo onto your show.
So then, I thought they were trying to establish the reason that they had you on. I guess you know that.
The reason,
why were you invited on just recently?
Vadim, creationist cat Vadim talked to Kevin. Kevin wanted me on. Christy wanted to come on after that, probably at the behest of Kevin.
But do you know why?
Because she has beef and she likes doing that shit?
No, not her. Why would Kevin?
Because Vadim asked him.
And Vadim. Okay, so...
Vadim, Vadim and I have worked together several times, so...
Okay, so then
Yep.
I thought the implication was that it seemed like you guys had suddenly turned leftist, which is something that you kind of came on to maybe argue against. That's
Kevin.
How it sounded.
Yeah, with Kevin, and I did. And we had a nice discussion.
Right. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
So I thought the way it was presented, anyways, is I thought the whole reason she was bringing that up is to say, hey, I thought you were a piece of shit. But we heard that, things were different. So I wanted to go back to this moment.
What she wanted me to
saying
so what she wanted
totally
me to
off base.
Yeah. She definitely presented it like that, so you're not wrong. What she does every single time this kind of shit happens is what she wanted me to do was apologize and then acquiesce. But I disagree. I do not fall in line with what her thinking is here. Her line of thinking is, okay, whether she's offended or not, because if she's offended, that's valid, okay? I'm fine with her being offended. I mean, I'm not fine with it, but I mean, like, I'm fine with the concept of her being offended. Like, I'm not going to argue that she was or was not offended. She's valid in being offended. So I apologize for her offending her. What she wanted me to do after that point was to agree that mentioning a penis to a woman is inherently sexist, is a sexual power move, in her words, and should be condemned. No, women can handle talking about the male, the male biological primary sex organ. Yeah, that's a thing that can happen, especially in a colloquial sense, especially in a sense that isn't actually talking about anatomy, but is talking about the process of like prostrating myself to her. So yeah, yes.
Okay, so here's something fun that'll put me in hot water. Earlier when I was arguing with, I don't know if they were a follower of yours or not, but they were definitely a defender in that specific instance. They were basically saying the same thing. They were setting up this idea of, well, you should just know that when someone says X, Y, and Z, that it doesn't mean this, it actually means this, because conventionally, and going on to all this shit. Well, I mentioned that my personal experience, especially lately, as I've been in more leftist spaces, I'm actually running into a lot more people who are on the spectrum in a way that I'll say something.
Yeah, I have a lot of autistic fans as well.
Right. And there's this huge potential for misinterpretation, right?
Sure.
Now, it's really interesting because talking to people like that, it makes you realize how easy it is, even with people who may not necessarily be on the spectrum. It shows you the, subjectivity, right, of everything that you say. Because you're always appealing to, some meme, right, like cart before the horse or whatever.
Yep.
Depending on the context, if you've never heard that, you don't know what the hell someone's talking about. So in that way, it seems like there's certainly a possibility for that. Now, the things that you've laid out are showing it. You see her as someone who operates in bad faith. Now, I don't know her enough to even have a judgment on that. So
I saw her.
This isn't something I can address.
So here's an example of how bad faith I assumed she was. I changed my language in those tweets to avoid exactly what had ended up happening anyway. So in the beginning of that tweet thread, I call her a dick, not a bitch. I do this on purpose because I don't want her to think that I'm calling her an asshole based on anything that has to do with an immutable trait that she holds, such as her gender. So I call her a dick. I then go on to say that she's a pariah in left-wing circles, and she is, because a lot of people don't want to fucking talk to her because she does this shit. She tries to gotcha people all the fucking time. She tries to play a victim. She tries to say that you're not pure enough. You can't be an ally. You're not lefty enough. She does this fucking all the time. I move on to say a thing about a dick, because guess what? I know Christy Winters is a cis woman that doesn't have a dick. So I didn't want her to be able to say, like, I didn't want to say something I would have said, and something I remember toying with tweeting. I don't know if I typed it out and deleted it or what, but I remember saying, "Oh, please let me suckle upon your teat of wisdom that I may become wiser." But I thought to myself, she'll think this is me talking about her actual tits. Like I don't know. I don't want to actually talk about her body, because I don't want her to take it in a way that I don't mean. So I talked about her ghost penis. Like, this is the kind of shit that I'm talking about. She intentionally, like, as soon as a sexual thing came up, right? And not even sexual, like overtly sexual, because even though I'm talking about sucking a dick, she doesn't have one, and she knows what the fuck I'm saying. Neither of us are autistic, to my knowledge. She holds a fuck.
That's not what I meant. I'm sorry. I just want to point out that.
Well, no, but even so, no.
No,
I know you didn't mean that, but what I'm saying is
interpretation.
Right, I'm saying I don't think that autism is something she could lean on for interpret. Like, if I said that to my friend Dom, right?
Yeah,
who is autistic, right?
Yeah.
And we talk a lot. If I said something to that effect where it wasn't the standard way to deliver that colloquialism, like, "Oh, what do you want me to do? Suck your dick?" Like, that would be roughly the standard colloquialism. Like, if I did it, he may misinterpret that at first. And that's totally valid, right? But even if he misinterprets it, my intention is not to actually violate his body. And I wouldn't probably say it that way to him, because he does have a penis, right? So I would avoid that language.
Wait, you would?
To my friend Dom, if I didn't want him to think.
Oh, you mean specifically him? I thought you meant because he had a penis, you wouldn't want to talk about it.
Well, it depends. It depends on who it is. Like in what I'm saying, right? So, like to a gay guy, I'm probably not going to go. Because it can be misconstrued as, "Oh, what do you want me to do? Suck your dick?" That could be misconstrued as I'm being homophobic because I assume he sucks dick because he's gay. But that's not the case. Like, I intentionally avoided things that could be taken as part of her biology or her gender or whatever, because of the way she fucking acts. And does she not know enough to understand your sense of humor? Smug Pug with a big mug, I'm glad you asked. Because she said in the chat last night, and you probably heard it when we were having a discussion, she's like, "I don't know you, Jake. You can't just use these terms." You heard her say that, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, she said it several times. She said, "I don't know you, Jake. I don't know who you are." And then she goes on to say, "I was a patron for years until you had Sargon on. I watched your channel for years." Okay. During the time she watched my channel, I've gone through the fucking Y-hole joke. We've done the Lisa tract. We've done numerous God and Gabriel fucking skits. Like, if any of you have been around for any of that shit, you know that's pretty fucking dark. It's pretty fucking crass. It's pretty, like, these are not things you just walk around and talk about with people. She knew this talking to me. The odds of me saying the word dick are like 80% on Twitter. Like, come on. It's like such bullshit, like, "Oh, I expected better of you, Jake." Really fucking did you? Seriously? I'm crass all the time. I know who Christy Winters is. I know she knows who I am. I have enough social knowledge of the situation to say anything I would normally say to anyone that has a parasocial relationship with me. I'm not going to change who I am suddenly because Christy Winters might take me way too fucking seriously. She's taking me in, because she knows who I am, for years, enough so to buy a t-shirt, in her own words, to be a patron of mine for several years, in her own words. She knows me enough to understand that the odds of me being crass are pretty fucking high. She knows who I am. She had to literally go out of her way to take what I said and interpret it with the least amount of charity possible. Literally, the only way you get to Jake actually wants to sexually assault your dick is if you take it in a way that divorces it from the fucking context of not only the conversation, but the broader social impact of that we have on each other in general for literal years. It's incredibly dishonest, and to say anything other than that is actually bullshit. And not saying you're being bullshit. I'm saying she's being bullshit. Like, maybe people are unaware of the broader context of the relationship between me and Christy, but she's been around for fucking ever. She knows who the fuck I am.
Okay, so I don't know how interested you are in this, but I'm interested in the idea of sexual humor. A lot of people use it. I'd say Vosh is probably the person online I've seen use it the most explicitly.
Oh yeah, I think Vosh goes farther than I ever would. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, like he says some shit. I'm like, okay. Yeah. But it makes sense. He's it's a character.
Yeah.
But if we talk about why does it work this way? I'm sure you've been around people. I've had bosses, family members, just men in general, and it seems like the sexual joke is, I don't know what a sexual power move is, but there's definitely a power dynamic when it comes to sex. The idea that, yeah, I'm saying like I got fucked or whatever.
Which is specifically, like, by the way, again, another example of how I changed my language. I was the one sucking the dick in that situation on purpose. Right. I was the one that was in that instance that was being submissive.
Noticing that there are sexual dynamics at work.
Right, and I didn't want to exploit them. That. Yeah, and I didn't want to exploit them because I know how she views men. I know how she views them. So I went out of my way to avoid that kind of thing on purpose, and also dismiss the shit out of her because she was being an asshole. Like someone used the example, and I thought it was great. Like, if Jake had said, do you want please remove your shoes that I may kiss your feet more, it doesn't imply that Christy has a foot fetish, right? It also doesn't imply that I have one.
I like that one.
It might be a better metaphor, but it's not the one I use, right? It's certainly less crass, but I wanted to be crass, right?
Right.
I was crass on purpose because I understand, like, I wanted to be an asshole to her because she was being an asshole to me. Call it petty, it was, but, like, that's my fault. My fault lies in the fact that I was crass and I was an asshole. Totally fine in owning that. Absolutely fine with it.
Right, and let's talk about that because humor is very important to me too, right? So we have to, there's always like there's like a calculation, like, how, provocative or, explosive do we want to be? Sure. And sometimes, you pay a price for that, right? This is a conversation that I see had a lot, especially in leftist spaces, specifically when we're talking about punching up and down. And it's not super well done. And I feel like a lot of older comedians, they decide, fuck it, let's be free speech warriors and go all the way.
Yeah. So, and I'm not that.
Yeah. Of course not. No. I'm not saying you are. I'm trying to take this very specific conversation and have a more broad conversation about, like, how do we change? How do we go from here, right?
Right.
Because I think that's much more interesting to me. Like,
Right. And my answer to that?
Yeah.
My answer to that, number one, is, you should probably act in good faith when critiquing what someone else is trying to say to you, right? So, or give them the benefit of the doubt. So when I see Christy Winters say, it's a shame for you to have invited Milo on, my first reaction is, why is that? And so I basically asked, why do you think that is? And she's like, you're platforming Milo's. By the way, hypocritical for her to be upset about me about the Milo thing, because I was trying to get him on to fuck him over, but and make fun of him. But she platforms people like
how that was a more private thing, right?
It was, of course, it was a private thing, and I wasn't gonna announce it and be like, by the way, internet, I'm trying to lure him in here so that I can make fun of this guy. No, of course not. They actually
he's a snowflake. Yeah.
right, of course.
No,
And he didn't. He didn't. Yeah, he didn't come on because he was a pussy. So
exactly. But see, that's information we don't have, right?
Yeah, but why do you have to have that information? Because she's platforming Sargon, she's platforming Worski, she's platforming Killstream, she's platforming V. Why can't I can only I platform Sargon one time. One time we don't bring up anything. I cut out a lot of stuff that he wanted to say. How come me platforming Steve 3 times doesn't count for a +2 on my scorecard, but platforming him once? Come on. She platformed him more than I did.
So this is interesting because I feel like Contra has done the best thing about it. Now, of course, it's totally ad absurdum reductio or whatever. It's like the most ridiculous case, platforming like a Richard Spencer type, right? Well, the difference in there, it seems to be anyway, that the difference is how you handle your guest. So it's one thing, like I had a friend, this is a little personal, I had a friend who, he's kind of a similar mind. He's probably a little bit more, I'll deal with anybody, and he spends a little bit of time talking to fascists. Well, he told me that he got to the point to where he would actually be playing like games with him. And this was kind of fucking weird to me because I understand like the idea of, we should give them an argument. We should push back on these kinds of people. And frankly, we should make them out to be the fools that they are and show all their followers and everybody, here's who these people really are. They're not as smart as you think they are. They're just attacking straw men. Right?
I'd say that for content creators, but not followers. Like, so for instance, you're not going to get very...
no, I meant put the content creator on display to the followers. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. So, for instance, I wouldn't, like, a Sargon fan, I'm not going to be like, look at this fucking idiot. I mean, I might if they become, like, if they get to a point where, like, it's obviously pointless for me to continue. Like, I'll put someone on display like that. But, almost all the time in these conversations, I get people to acquiesce at least on one important point. At least one. Almost all the time. The only person I can remember recently not is that ethno-state fascist guy we talked to after the Jesse Lee Peterson stream on YouTube. That guy didn't like budge at all, and so we're just like, fuck you, you're fucking done. No, you're it. That's it. And so we just got rid of him. Some people still think that's black. Some people still think that was Black Pigeon Speaks, by the way. I don't know that it was. He said he was from California or something, and I'm pretty sure Black Pigeon Speech is not. But he could have been lying. It doesn't matter.
So then you were being very responsible with your platform.
Right.
The whole idea of platforming, it's got nuance to it. If you bring someone on, you shouldn't just be like, oh, hey, Nazi, what's your favorite color? Oh, really? What soda do you like? Right,
exactly.
What that is it's normalizing. But what you're doing is you're challenging.
Right.
Same thing Wash does.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I'm just going to toss this out there. People like Kevin Logan just go on and be chummy with Worski on stream. I'm just tossing that out there, okay?
Yeah. So and also used to go on with what's that Nazi pug guy? I can't think of his name.
Yeah, I don't remember.
He used to go on with that guy.
Yep. And Christy goes on with is very chummy with V, and yeah. So
V.
I'm just saying I'm not doing
I've seen
this.
Him slap Sargon around.
Sure, but who doesn't fucking slap Sargon around? Okay.
I wish I could.
Like when I had him on, I didn't know how bad he was.
Yeah.
Like and
it was evident quickly. Though,
it was evident very quickly after that. So because him and I disagreed openly on immigration specifically. I don't know if we have a tweet thread or it was a private DM. I don't know. I disagreed with him on, he was like, don't let Muslims into the UK, right? And then I openly disagreed with him. And several times I was like, you know what? I don't agree with Sargon on his views on immigration in the UK, but I don't live in the UK. I don't know like enough about it to really come out against it, but he wasn't using language similar to our anti-immigration people, which is usually straight up racist, right? Right. So it seemed like a more benign version of it, even though it turned out it isn't. Hey, thanks, Random Invite. I appreciate you. So we have him on, and when we have people on, what Hugo and I do is I usually find the people. It's very rare that Hugo will find the people because I'm obviously more social. I'll find somebody and I'll say, in this case, Sargon was suggested to me from some fans several times. And they're like, oh, check out these videos. And I saw some Cyberpunk videos from Sargon, because he does the Cyberpunk thing. He DMs Cyberpunk, like the tabletop RPG. Yeah.
Okay.
And some atheism stuff, and all of it sounded fine. He was a little edgy. That was fine. And I said, hey, Hugo, check this account out. People are asking us to work with Sargon of Akkad, this Sargon of Akkad guy. See if there's anything that you don't like. And we usually say either we don't like the person, we're not going to platform them, or we do like the person, let's have them on. Hugo gave me the okay, and we went forward. Do you know who... And then we announced it. And do you know who didn't fucking tell me anything? My good friend Steve Shives. My good friend Steve Shives, who has been on 3 Chick Tracks and been a friend of ours for like 4 years. You know what Steve Shives does? Steve Shives blocks me. Do you know what he could have done? Hey, don't platform this guy for this reason, this reason, this reason. By the way, he's been harassing me. Do I know this? Of course I don't fucking know this, because no one's fucking talking. They think that like I have his shared experience or something. If Steve, and this is genuinely true. Hugo and I talked about this 4 years ago, and we talked about this today in my living room. If Steve Shives would have been like not a douchebag about this, Saneth Samed, what? Why is Saneth Samed mad at me? What'd I do? What? I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. He's mad at me for some reason. Sorry? I literally, I don't know what conversation. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. If Steve Shives, and again, we talked about this today, and if Steve Shives had reached out and said, hey, Sargon is a bad guy, here's why, XYZ, even if he did it after the video came out, even if he didn't see the tweet, right? If he didn't see us announce it, even if you saw the video and said it afterwards, instead of just straight up fucking blocking us, we would have deleted the video or not done the video at all. And we would have been backing Steve up. We would have been fucking backing him up.
Yeah.
But this is the kind of fucking problem when he's like, oh, it's Hugo and Jake, no purity test. You know what Steve told me today through a block? He told me, because he learned that I was upset that he had blocked Hugo and I, someone we thought was our friend. He told me that he hopes I die mad at him. Do you think does that sound like a good fucking guy? Does that sound like someone that we should fucking defend? Like, this is my shit,
certainly
man.
Sounds like someone who's super emotional. I mean, this is all... It's kind of interesting for so many personal relationships for it to be such a public display. I understand exactly how you feel. Based on everything you told me, I understand the position you're in.
Like, how the fuck am I supposed to know that this guy's doing this shit to anybody if no one wants to fucking let me know? How am I supposed to know your lived experience? So the only way you can tell me is by communication, and that's why I advocate for it. I advocate for strong communication for everybody all the time. I want to talk to someone like a Shoe on Head. I want to talk to someone like a Greg. Greg doesn't like me because I explained to him how my Supreme Court works. He can't take it. The same reason Christy can't fucking take a stupid fucking joke about a cock. Like, it's so fucking sensitive that I see barely any difference between Christy and a Greg, except Greg is willing to use a different language. That's really it. It's thin-skinnedness, it's cowardice, and it pushes people away from your shit. Sadly, when Greg pushes people away, they go further right instead of further left. But, like, this kind of shit is just... It's so fucking not helpful, and it's not surprising that when you invoke Steve Shives' name, it's a pejorative. Like, and I don't want it to be. I could have prevented this, honestly. Well, I guess duo-handedly, me and Hugo together, if we would have taken Steve's side, he would be fine right now. He would not be in the scenario he is right now, but instead he cut us out. And you know, Steve, again, and I reiterated this on the stream last night, Steve is under no obligation to interact with anybody. He can block whoever he wants. But he must understand that there's a social cost to that. If you block people outright without even meeting them, without talking to them, and because they have ideas you disagree with, it makes you look weak and it makes you look like an asshole. Right or wrong, And again, he doesn't have to, like, he was facing a lot of abuse, and I totally get why you'd want to shelter from that. But at the same time, people that would otherwise support you are fucked because of it. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Right. So it sounds to me like if this person's going through all this harassment, I'll take it down to my own personal level. If I was dealing with some piece of shit and then I saw my friend was gonna, stream video games with him, my friend has like a smaller platform, I probably would feel a bit, I don't know, selfish or whatever. Who knows what Steve was thinking? We can never know that, right?
Sure.
But I would feel insecure specifically about what the implications of me speaking up and saying something are. And that's a problem, right? I mean, that's almost like the problem of like reporting any other kind of abuse, right? Is we're worried about being excluded because we're being, whatever. So it sounds to me like this is not a Jake and Steve issue. This is a bit more broad, and this is something that you just happen to have between each other, and it's a normal human thing, and somehow we need to figure out how to overcome it.
See, that's the thing. I'm fine with if Steve called me on Discord right this second, I would answer and talk to him. If I called him, he wouldn't. This is the fucking difference, man. I'm so
Right.
like, if he's like, here's why you're an asshole, maybe I'll fucking agree with him. I have no idea, because I don't know his perspective enough to understand, because he's never dished on it. All he ever says about me is that I'm an asshole and dishonest. Like, how am I dishonest? What am I dishonest about? I'm being extremely honest right now. I'm not lying about my experience whatsoever. This is my exact experience. So, I mean, just because I don't know what's going on in your life, like, honestly, if your friend was playing video games with someone that was abusing you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you genuinely think you wouldn't, even particularly alone with the friend or through text, you wouldn't say like, hey, so what do you wouldn't even like toe the water there?
I don't know. I guess it would depend on my mental state.
Well, sure, because it's not like physical abuse, it's not sexual abuse. Like Sargon didn't like diddle Steve when he was a kid. What Sargon did was send. It's definitely, absolutely. It's not. Mm-hmm. It's not harassment. It's definitely. I think Sargon led a harassment campaign for sure. I don't know if Steve was doxxed, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, because there's shitty people in Sargon's fan base that would probably do that kind of shit. But why the fuck when I say, hey, this is what I'm gonna do, don't I hear, like, I don't even hear anything like secondarily from like Steve's friends. Oh, yeah. Like Steve isn't bitching about me doing that to someone that's willing to talk to me. Like, that's wild, because I know a lot of Steve's friends, and none of them brought it up either. Like, because they got blocked. It's really weird, and it's not, like, it's unhealthy behavior. I wish the best for Steve, but like, I don't know that he's going to get the best because of the way he treats this kind of social situation. Like, and it's not just a Steve thing. Christy does the same shit, where she'll block me for a period of time and then try to fucking cancel me, and then she'll unblock me for a little bit and whatever. So, like, I don't trust Hugo and Jake. Steve earlier today, when really he could just talk to me. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
It sounds like it doesn't sound like there was any logic, right? It sounds like you're trying to look for, what's the logic? Let me show how all the logic's bad. It sounds like, there's a heating gaming moment, right? It was all emotional, and this is the fallout.
See, it's not a moment though. Hey, thank you, Jack Frost Talker. It's not a moment, right? It's years.
It's not a moment. What started it, right? It was an intense emotional reaction. Like, there's people I've cut out a long time ago in the same exact way. Now,
well, sure, for repeated behavior, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's always, it's always that little thing that breaks the camel's back. It doesn't seem like a lot at the time. The entire camel was all that stuff.
The entire thing, like, the camel was fucking fine. It didn't have a thing on its back. I put Sargon on it. The camel snapped in half. Like,
well, I mean, I don't know how big this harassment campaign was. I've never
me been either. He wouldn't talk to me about it.
Oh, okay.
Right? So how am I fucking supposed to know anything? Like,
well, I don't think you are, right? Like I'm saying, this is an emotional thing. I don't think there was some intellectual calculation.
of course not.
I
But he
think
acts.
this is just a grudge, like you said.
Sure, but this is the thing. Steve often uses language like we were friends and they fucked me over. Like, what? Apparently we weren't fucking friends, dude. Like, it goes both ways. What the fuck? What do you? Am I supposed to reach out to you every time I do something on my fucking YouTube channel? What? It seems very silly. Cal from Keenan and Cal was a big crush of yours. Good for you. I thought someone said something. I wanted to bring up, and now I can't remember what it was. I'm sorry. Go ahead if you want to say something else. I lost it. It's fine. I lost it in the comments.
I just saw they're talking about orange soda. I was like, is that from the Nazi meme I was doing?
Is orange soda a Nazi meme now? Because I'm pretty sure they were talking about all that. Oh.
Oh, no. I thought it was when I was like, you should have Nazis on and ask them for their, their Playboy interview, right? All the softball questions.
Not Cathodion. It was about Steve Shives and about how he thinks. I guess it's just part of the culture. Steve Shives is a really great example of it because I have personal stakes in it, and I'm not as personal with Christy, so it's just an example of it. Jake, are your second and third monitors all the way up in the air? Yeah, they're over here. It's over here. And like I gotta look up because my glasses don't go all the way up to my eyes sometimes, so I gotta like do this. It is up on the wall though. I don't know, like I really don't like this cancel culture shit either. There's some people that need to be canceled, like so there's some people that like a Crowder, where he has targeted harassment campaigns against the Vox reporter. Hasan was talking to him earlier. I forget his name. Like targeted harassment and stuff like that with repeated intentional slurs. Like, I mean, this kind of stuff is obvious. If like a misinformation campaigns, like Alex Jones doesn't necessarily have to be a bully though, right? I don't know, truthers, flat earthers, stuff like that. Stuff, particularly, maybe not even flat earthers, particularly people that hurt people, like a anti-vaxxer, right? I'm kind of fine with being like, hey, maybe we shouldn't allow a platform to this person if this is what they're going to do.
Okay, so you have the same as Destiny, the idea of getting rid of bad faith actors.
It's bad faith actors, but if someone says something that you find distasteful, is that really grounds for it? It's not just distaste, right? It's about...
Obviously, it depends, right? Like, if they're talking about your Jewish ethnic heritage, that's a little different than saying,
sure. So there's a difference. So there's a difference between me making fun of a Hasidic Jew, right? Even though the Hasidim are fucking terrible people and they don't deserve a lot of the protections that they have.
This is cultural, not genetic.
Right. The Hasidim are actually fucking terrible, right? But I dressed up like a Hasidic Jew for Halloween for that tract we did, right? And some people thought that I was being anti-Semitic. No, I was specifically being anti-Hasidic, which is fine, and I totally understand why someone would think I was being anti-Semitic, because some people equate the Hasidim with how Jews are, right? They think it's the same thing. And so I explained that, and it went fine, right? Now, if my content was talking about routinely stuff like the Jewish question, the cookie question, the 14 words, 1488, like stuff like that. Like, if I'm dog whistling constantly, pick me up. The problem with dog whistling is really hard to monitor because it changes pretty often. But someone like a Nick Fuentes is a perfect example of someone that I think you could cancel, right? Because it's repeated behavior. If I do one joke and it's distasteful and you think, holy shit, dude, that was like fucking racist. Like, there's a really famous example of when I was racist on accident because I didn't know the implications. And I said the G word. I won't repeat it again, Twitch. The G word, it's a racist epithet for Asian people. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I did it.
I saw Gran Torino.
Right. Yeah. The Gran Torino, and I said it on a tract in which they were in the Korean War, and I thought it was like calling a German person, like a German soldier, like a kraut, which is kind of racist in general, I guess, because they eat sauerkraut, right? I thought it was like that, or the Viet Cong, like they call them the Kong. So I thought it was and I didn't know this until that tract, genuinely. I didn't know it wasn't a term referring to North Korean soldiers. It's literally just a slur against Asian people. I don't know why it is. I don't know what it means. But I did say it. And then I kept it in on purpose because I thought it was important to see that someone can be just straight up actually ignorant. And so I kept it in and I uploaded it to YouTube because I thought it was a funny moment of me fucking up. And Dark Matter and Hugo immediately call me on it because he's in that tract. And like, that's okay. Like, I think it's okay for someone to fuck up and not just be like, okay, you're a piece of shit, you need to go. Like, I fucked up and I own it. I actually apologized because like I didn't actually know. And so yeah, it is an Asian slur. Yeah, so we don't use it. And I don't know, like, this is the kind of thing, like, if I say basically, hey, suck my dick, right? And or I'm sorry, I'm not sucking your dick good enough, which is literally what I'm saying when I say please let me suckle upon your cock more properly. Like, I can understand how that can come across as overtly sexual, right?
Yes,
absolutely, because I mean, I'm explaining fellatio. I mean, very clearly, but it's not really about a blowjob, right? It's about the implications socially of that colloquialism, and so while you may think hold on, while you may think I fucked up, right? While you may think, he was being like sexist, right? Like, was he? Was his intent that? No, his intent wasn't to say the G word. His intent was he thought it was something else, and it wasn't. And so he fucked up, and that's okay. What we do on the left, and I guess like a Christy and a Steve, is someone will fuck up, right? And this goes back to like the H-bomber guy picture, which is one of the things I had problem with Steve. H-bomb. Dan Olson, Lindsay Ellis, and Contra had that lunch with Shu and Greg at VidCon 3 years ago, and Steve said they should be fucking embarrassed. That is some cancel bullshit, man. That is so fucking dumb. They shouldn't be embarrassed. They should be fucking happy. Like, they should be celebrated for trying to reach out to these two. Absolutely 100% celebrated. And they were.
I love all the people except for two specific that were at that table.
I tend to agree.
I don't know if I'm willing to. Yeah, I don't know if I'm willing to like necessarily say that they should all feel like shit. Like, I'm not a moralizer, really. I don't understand.
Yeah,
the
but
point of that.
Steve was doing that, and that's why it rubbed me the fucking wrong way.
But I do think it's there are problems with you sitting down for tea with, bigoted people.
It'd be different if it was like fucking Richard Spencer, but not.
We don't
not
have to
Shu and Greg, man. Are you kidding me?
Well, but hang on. Do they have to be Nazis?
No, like like Sargon. What about Sargon and Milo, right?
No, fuck no.
Right, I wouldn't, but I mean, I might. I would talk to them, but I don't know if I'm posing for a picture necessarily and celebrating.
Exactly.
But that's different because Shu and Greg aren't those people. Shu and Greg aren't as bad as those people. Shu and Greg are people just to the right of where, like, your average left-wing politician in America is, right? They're just a little center. And they're doing things that are harmful, in my opinion, when they make anti-left, like anti-SJW content, right? Like, it is harmful. It isn't good for the left. But are they fucking unreachable? No. They're 100% reachable, especially Shu, because Greg's very stubborn. But Shu, she's okay for a conversation. She's down to talk sometimes, and she's in my experience, she's generally a pretty nice person, if not naive, right? She's a little naive, sure. and I don't know how old she is. I think she's younger than I am, but she's not. She's about the same age as my girlfriend. So I mean, it's not like she's a young idiot. Like, she's just a little naive. She comes from a place of upper middle class privilege. She's white. She's bi. She's slightly liberal, and she dates that Canadian guy. I guess she's engaged, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so it sounds as I'm listening to it, it sounds like I might be a little bit more extremist than you.
Of course you are.
Well, no, when I say this, I mean almost like a free speech warrior. I think that literally every person is reachable. The question is, what's the cost?
Well, I don't think
And
like Richard Spencer is reachable, right? Because
well, who
he's
knows?
too dug. Well, okay, so from a
There's that whole you've seen that thing, right, where the Nazi I can't even think of the name of that charity, but it's a place where Nazis who are sort of coming out
okay,
of their Nazi bullshit.
right. There's a
But
fundamental difference between Richard Spencer and a Nazi underneath him. The fundamental difference is
oh yeah,
one of them makes a living being a Nazi.
right.
This is the difference. This is why I don't think you
Well,
could reach a Ray Comfort. This is why I don't think you can reach a Kent Hovind. You can't reach a Richard Spencer. You can't reach these career people that make their
not without
entire living on doing the thing. Like Sargon. Sargon's in shitlord territory, and if he ever doesn't, he's gonna have to go work back at Applebee's. Like,
right. Well, and so I don't, by the way, think that either, unless they have some catastrophic thing, like, I don't know, they lose their platform, everything goes to shit, right? When the power is pushing them to be that way, I fully agree. It's probably not going to happen.
I think you could do it under communism if there was no incentive to be the way he is, or even past communism where you just have like utopianism in general, however that manifests. Like if there's no weight behind the decision of what my career is going to be in regards to my bigotry for Richard Spencer specifically, like I think you can reach him, but there's so much incentive for him to just shut you out.
Exactly.
Right. So
Exactly. So unless he had some sort of like massive thing, I don't know, someone very close to him dies, he has some weird epiphany after he reads some, piece of art. I don't think facts and logic debate is going to do anything because he's a bad faith actor.
right, that's
He's
what I
not gonna,
mean. Yeah.
he can't be penetrated
Ha.
mentally,
Ha.
so to speak.
Ha, you said it, not me.
Yes, cancel me.
Jake watches Mr. Medicare confirmed? No, but I do follow him on Twitter
Who-
because I was no.
who
Is it
that
Medicare that
weirdo?
I
keep
follow?
hearing about that.
Medicare's a piece of trash.
Medic.
Or at least he has been. I don't know if he is now. He's a piece of trash still, right? Applebee's. Oh, the Applebee's joke. Oh no.
I'll have to look into this person later. Okay, first I've seen
Do you want? I mean, Mr. Medicare is. Last time we watched him, he came. Yeah. No, he does that. He's anti-Sargon for some reason. He does this stuff.
Last month during particular comment was a tweet direct.
I just hate him. Anyway. Hunter can change, possibly, maybe. So after I had Hunter Avalon on, he changed a lot of the ways he talks. I'm just throwing that out there. And he started having arguments with his fans about trans rights. Just saying.
He's going to be on Bosch soon, if you didn't know that.
Yep. And
he got him to agree.
After he came on here, he started having some different opinions. I'm just going to toss that out there. Nobody's unreachable necessarily. But I do think there are some people that are too incentivized to be reachable in any way that matters, right? So,
Right.
But that's not to say don't talk to them. I would have a conversation with Richard Spencer. I probably wouldn't platform him, but I'd go on his platform, because I think he's wrong, and I think it's important that he knows I think he's wrong for the reasons I think he's wrong, and I don't know. I think it's beneficial. There's some places that are so bad faith that I might not go. I think about Killstream every day. I don't know that I will ever go on. I know you don't know about Killstream, but you should Vosh went on Killstream, and
Oh, wow.
Destiny's been on. It's a great way to get banned off Twitch if you stream at the same time. That's for fucking sure.
Huh.
It's not all because Jake. Shut up. No, I'm just saying he came on here and he started using different language, so I think I got through to him a little bit. I think he did a lot of the legwork himself, though, because I think he actually read that thing I linked to him about how misgendering people is actually fucking harmful. I don't know. I think we should be talking to more people, and I don't think we should be shutting them out. And that's my big fucking rub with this. Like, it's my huge rub. We need to be talking to people. And it needs to be
agree.
these creators that have these platforms, including fucking Steve, including fucking Christy. Like, they need to be doing this, and not in the way, like, she may say, oh, I talk to these people. No, you fucking don't. You chit-chat with them, or you smash on Sargon. Sargon's not who you need to be fucking talking to. You need to be talking to his fans. When his chuddy-ass fans come to you, you don't block them. You don't fucking ostracize them for using words. And you don't fucking knock them out. You let them in your fucking chat, and you correct them when they say something. Like when someone says the T word or whatever, we say, hey, we don't say that here. It offends different people. We allow them to have breathing room to make mistakes, and we correct that behavior, and we do it. And sometimes people are gonna get butthurt and leave. But how many of you are ex-chuds? Honestly, how many of you are ex-chuds? Because there's so fucking many of you. There's so many of you. And, like, I don't know, were you ever one? I wasn't ever one, but I don't know, were you?
I don't know how, but no. I've always been kind of like, what the hell's going on? But I've never been there, fortunately.
Tons of people were I've always been perfect, sorry. Thanks. A mega extra. I mean, there's so many people.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, being a chud, that's kind of the norm, right? Like, being a chud means you, generally speaking, you never went outside of whatever you sort of absorbed, I guess, like, culturally.
Anti-SJW, anti-feminist, sure. I'd say our culture is not great, but it's certainly diverse, and it offers a lot of perspectives, and there's, like, honestly, basketball is the reason that I'm not racist. Like, my dad was kind of a racist. I don't know that he was capital R racist. He's not gonna like burn a torch or anything. He's not gonna, but I mean, he like has his biases, and yeah, like playing basketball with the black kids in the city helped me see that they're just fucking people, and like, you know what I mean? Like, it was it was sports.
I mean, I'm from the South. I was always around.
Yeah,
I'm from the South. Like, literally just being around whoever you're bigoted, I don't know, could be bigoted towards can change that. Even in the short term, like my dad, he is definitely capital R racist. He never did anything like, you know, but he always talked about it. It was like his pathology. Yeah. But when he began coaching football and he had to deal with, you know, black kids and black parents and stuff like that, it was kind of crazy to watch how quickly he you know, it wasn't like he was running around in a pussy hat or anything, but within just like weeks, he was a lot softer. He wasn't constantly being a total piece of shit like the kind of person who, when they talk, you're just like, shut up, you know that. Yeah. He like started to soften, but the problem is, as soon as you pull them out of that kind of environment, it goes right back to the memes. It sucks. It's really hard to not be a chud for some reason. Well, I guess I know why, but you know what I mean. It seems so counterintuitive in some ways.
Alan Michael, can I get I missed this. Can I get a pride corn wall for my subiversary, please, chat? Can we do a pride corn wall for the subiversary for Alan Michael, who's always in here and very supportive? Get some pride corn up in that shit. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of people that have similar issues. It irritates me to no end that I don't know. Well, it's not like I'm trying not to sound like a stuck-up asshole. I'm not unimpeachable. I am fallible. I'm not perfect. I do make mistakes, and that's totally fine, and I will own them. But the fact that someone would come at me and question my allyship after like the work, and not just question it, like literally dismiss it, is really it's emblematic of like this pathological issue within the left, where if someone pisses you off, it's time to get rid of them, and that is so fucking bad.
Right. Now, okay, so
thank you, Anonymous Cheerer.
This is something that I think about a lot, because there are really good ways to take this, and then there are very lucrative ways to take this.
For me,
Well, for literally anybody.
I could go full anti SJW and make quite a few dollars off of this. Yeah.
Oh hell yes!
Yeah, I'm not going to,
in a second. They'd love that story. Are you kidding me? Okay.
Oh yeah, oh my God, are you? Yeah. I would make so much money if I go. Yeah, I just got converted to the right wing because she said I was a poo-poo face.
Trump, Trump's got some good points. That.
Oh yeah, man. Jake Koch, fuck yeah, man. Hook me up with that Dave Rubin money. The best part would be I would go in as a mole and then expose everybody, but you guys would hate me for 2 years. I'm just tossing that out there. We could do it, but you guys are not going to like me, and you guys are going to be very disappointed for a little bit. Okay? But just have faith.
And you totally get absorbed into the power structure.
There you go.
But yeah, so there's some leftist critiques. Zizek is kind of a meme. He does a lot of that.
Yeah.
And anytime he talks about political correctness, he just sounds like a boomer. So you kind of have to take a grain of salt when you listen to him. That's what I'm really worried about.
It's not about political correctness for me because... first of all, I was talking to Sarah about this today. I don't like the term political correctness because it implies you're correct. It implies you're correct for political gain or social gain.
And also incorrect, like on an objective level.
Right. What I would like is just be decent to people, and that's what we're trying to be. Even if you're being a dismissive asshole like I was, I'm still not. I intentionally
going for the throat.
I intentionally don't go after her gender. I don't go after immutable traits about her. I'm not just ad homing and I'm not being like vile, like really really mean. I'm being dismissive and I'm an asshole, absolutely. But it's intentionally me not going after parts of her that are unchangeable. You could be offended, and that's valid, but it's totally different. Hey, King Glasstooth, you and Hugo's Bible study was the first baby step away from my chudhood for me. Thanks, man. Hey, thank you. Enjoy your shit. Shut up and take my hate money. I think we need to not frame it as politically correct, because if we just say, hey, let's just be decent, and not even good, just be decent to each other, right? It implies that now we're operating in good faith. Okay, it's a mantra we can all get behind, be decent. I don't even think right-wing people are like, no, let's not be decent, right? It doesn't make us out to be police, because political correct also implies this, like just those two words together, political correct. You nailed it when you said correct implies an objectivity to it. Political implies like a structural, like, I don't know, like it's systematic, like it's above you. It's not a personal basis. It's a big government. It's in your house with you. It's watching you. It implies this sort of overarching and frankly overreaching aspect. Like, I'm not asking you not to say the N-word when you're alone in your car when you're rapping to your favorite Kendrick Lamar song, right? I'm not asking you to do that. Would I prefer you didn't? Maybe, I guess, but does it affect me when you're alone? Does it affect anybody else? No. So I'm not here to be like a super hardcore language police. What I'm saying is maybe when you're around your black friends, make sure if you are rapping with to your favorite Kendrick Lamar song, that if you say that and they check you on it, you don't get all butthurt, and they don't go too far and say like you can't be our fucking friend anymore, because it's too much. It's too much. It needs to be. We need to be decent to each other, and this goes both ways. When someone is indecent to you and they say something, you don't have to blow up on them. We can just say, hey, okay, this is the language you used, and I don't fucking appreciate that, and here's why, right? And you could be a little heavy-handed with them, and that's fine, but like you're not gonna write them out. Like still today, like if you ask me today, are you willing to cancel Steve? No. I think Steve does a lot of good stuff for the community. I think he advocates for a lot of the right things. His heart is in the right place, and he makes really good Star Trek content and wrestling content if you're into that terrible, terrible thing. But do I think he's right in every way? No. Do I think he could do a lot better? Yes. Do I think I've done more for the community than him? Fuck yes. And same thing with Christy. Do I think that she needs to be canceled? No. Do I think she's correct on her Sargon stuff? Mostly. Probably all the way. I don't know. I haven't seen all of them because she annoys me, and he annoys me more. So it's just not a thing I can really ingest that much. Do I think that she could be much more helpful to the community? Abso-fucking-lutely. Do I think Shu needs to be canceled? No. I think following her on Twitter is a great way to get some really good information, especially on right now abortion rights and stuff. That's great. Is her content not reflective of that? Abso-fucking-lutely. Do I wish she would do better in that regard? Abso-fucking-lutely. But this is the thing. I'm willing to talk to these people and get them out of the way and make them allies and let's work together towards things that we all agree are common goals in a lot of these people, including like a Chris Raygun, are anti-gun, they're pro-healthcare, they're pro-LGBT, they're anti-Trump, they're pro-democracy, they're like pro-runoff voting, they're anti-electoral college, they're pro-mostly socialist. Like these are all really good things, and we could have a lot of really, really good people like be on our side, but instead we're like, hey, you can't say some swear words, you can't say some shit. Like, holy fuck, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I know we've probably gone on a little too long, but I wanted to talk about sort of some of the leftist critiques. So what I'm doing right now is I'm sending a couple videos. Have you ever heard of Peter Coffin?
Sure. I have heard of Peter Coffin. Peter Coffin makes good content and then sometimes gets
Hey guys, have you heard that Peter Coffin coined the term validation gang? Did you know he coined the term how many have I told you yet that he coined the term validation gang? God damn
Does
it.
Peter Coffin say that a lot?
Yes.
Peter Coffin. Love me some Peter Coffin. Peter Coffin gets up Peter Coffin's own ass sometimes.
Yeah.
Peter Coffin could stand to get out of Peter Coffin's ass sometimes. But I don't not like Peter Coffin. That's not to say that.
The only reason I bring it up is because he and Angie Speaks and a lot of other leftists, they've done some content recently talking about what you're talking about in a way that I think you would probably be able to mostly identify with.
What notification? This?
Subscribers and stuff.
My subscribers?
Bitch, I was fucking trying to be cute and you ruined it because you don't read. What are you, Destiny?
That's
you and Hugo's Bible. No, I love you. Happy early birthday. I'm gonna lay down and listen. Thank you, Finn. Love you, Jake. Keep de-chutting people for all good of us. Thank you. I don't see you anywhere up here.
Don't fucking smile.
Alright. Are you gonna lay down in bed?
Yeah, for now.
Gay! Enduring T. Thanks for the Twitch Prime, my dude. Hey, can you bring Ellie? We haven't had Cat in a while. I need some cat hunches on stream. People love that shit. Surely they'll subscribe. I nominate that for Pride Month NB as a cornament on the side. Thanks, Caligula Salad. By the way, just since there's 200 people here, I want to thank Shady Shroomy in chat for crushing it today all day long. Having some really fantastic content on Twitter. Did you send these to me in what channel?
Oh, I'm putting it all in Politics and Debate for anybody who wants to go check this stuff out. On the left, this can be like a very heated conversation.
The PewDiePie pipeline from non-compete.
So
the
that's
pipeline stuff is what I'm talking about. So
exactly.
The pipeline stuff is I wouldn't say how edgy humor leads to violence. I'd say how not allowing edgy humor leads to people going to PewDiePie, which leads to violence.
and if you watch that video, he goes over exactly what you're talking
Probably.
about. And he says, look, there's a pipeline for the alt-right. They've got figures that slowly normalize things.
They have fuckers playing Fortnite trying to recruit kids right now.
Exactly. The left needs way more of that. Like, we have bits and bobs, people like yourself, the ones that you mentioned earlier, but we need that pipeline to like actually be fully built. We've got a lot of leaks right now, let's put it that way. And I really like that. The other two videos that I posted are more about what you were saying, like people calling what Chrissy's doing a clout game. Angie talks a little bit about that.
Is she okay. I have to ask, is she?
I have no idea. I'm not an expert, and this is something that I can see the arguments. I'm just a little bit, I believe in nuance, and I think sometimes people get a little emotional and they run away with the critique. Like there's a famous Marxist named Mark Fisher. You may have heard of him. He has an incredibly inflammatory essay called Exiting the Vampire Castle. This is one of the hottest things on the left. Very, very spicy takes. And I sort of agree and disagree with some of the stuff that he's talking about, but there's definitely a phenomenon. And that's why it's important, in my opinion, to sort of bring these things to the forefront. These are conversations that we're having on the, the extreme radical left of how do we deal with the problems that you're addressing without, becoming chuds, in other words.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's an ongoing conversation, but that's sort of what's happening right now. And I think these are really important videos for anyone who's interested. Not specifically you. I know you're busy and maybe you don't.
Well, I might watch some of them.
Yeah.
I think she's doubling down because she doesn't want to be wrong. She certainly doesn't. I've never seen her say the words, "I'm sorry, I was wrong." I did 4 times last night, and she ridiculed me for it. And I don't know. There's this thing when you're a guy. I don't know if you experience this, but people who would otherwise advocate against toxic masculinity use it in arguments against us. Do you experience that? Because it happens all the fucking time with me. And I hate.
Yes, and it's normally
hate it.
It's normally when the conversations have gotten really emotional. So I've been called paternal in the past. The mansplaining thing. It wasn't really used like super heavy-handedly. It was more like, you're kind of doing X or
No, not that. No.
What do you mean?
Not. Oh, you're exhibiting toxic masculinity. No, using things that we describe as traits of toxic masculinity, and saying that we. So I got called like, oh, you're being overly emotional.
Oh God.
Yeah.
No, I haven't gotten that one.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like, oh, what do you, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought I was supposed to be able to show my emotions. This kind of shit. That happens to me kind of a lot from lefty women mostly do it to me, like, if it happens. And they're usually much further left than me. And it drives me nuts because it's like, it doesn't really bother me in that it hurts my feelings. It bothers me in the hypocrisy of, like, what's your fucking messaging here? It's not very consistent, and this is why people like a Sargon can say, well, look at this. This is hypocritical. This logic doesn't follow. Like, they don't even practice what they preach. And it's like, you're doing the thing that lets them win, and it drives me absolutely crazy. And I'm sure there's lefty men that do it as well. It hasn't happened to me personally from a lot of lefty men. I mean,
happy early birthday, twin. Unfortunately, I cannot donate $671,988 for the laughs, but here is to being 1 year older and 1 year closer to death.
Hey, thanks, Finn.
Just
I
not
appreciate
death by
you.
Electrical fire.
Not death by electrical fire.
I appreciate you deeply.
I appreciate you as well. Thank you very much. We are almost all the way to fixing that. By the way, they have to come out a second time. They came on Wednesday yesterday, and they're going to come again. But it'll be done, and I'll be able to use my oven. I mean, it happens a lot on the right all the time, but it's not as bad because I don't find it hypocritical, right? So, I mean, it happens on the right almost exclusively. But when it happens on the left toward men, I get it on some level because there is obviously there's like this oppression that I represent as a cis white guy that like I'm gonna experience some of that, and that's okay because some of it's venting and it's fucking whatever. But But when it's used in a fucking argument, especially when it's live on the fucking internet, like, it makes you, and in turn makes me, look like a fucking hypocrite. And that's not, it's not okay. Like, it's always so hard to choose between watching you and Hasan. Choose me! Yeah, and if you create Chris McGuffin, if you create an impossible litmus, you have no reason to give people change. That's kind of the thing, yeah. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, like, this is a good example of, when a call-out is appropriate, right? You have to do it delicately, I guess. I don't know.
As a guy, I definitely do.
Put it that way. Right. But also productively. Like, we should have a conversation about, look, you're doing the thing. Like, we can't keep doing this, go into the reasons, all that. But yeah, there's a culture problem, I think, and I'm not really sure how to remedy it, because things like Twitter, Facebook, all social media, it's got this sort of like pointsy system. I think that's what people, when they say stuff like social capital, cloud games, stuff like that.
Sure.
I think those are sort of the easiest ways to see how that is, and how people will use their platform in ways that are not great. I mean, we see that a lot. So to me, it's a hard question. It's like, what do we do? Tell everybody to,
Kevin,
Jordan Peterson, clean our room? Like
Kevin Bergman did the exact thing, and I'm pretty sure, Kevin, you're being memey on purpose to illustrate the point. Look at Jake's male tears. Did you get your fifis hurt? So much male fragility. Yeah, it's that kind of shit. It doesn't usually happen to me. And I know that, like, people on the left, we like to do that to show hypocrisy towards right-leaning people when they go, like when they say, "Oh, I'm being harassed" or whatever, and then we mockingly say, basically, it's the SpongeBob meme. "Oh, what are you male tears?" Which is, I think, valid, because you're pointing out hypocrisy. You're not actually saying that their feelings don't matter. You're saying that you're a hypocrite, and this is kind of the comeuppance for that kind of shit. Darkosaurus, say the uwu word. I guess I just said it. Thank you, Darkosaurus. I love and appreciate you. But when the left uses it on other lefties, when we agree on the fact that, like, toxic masculinity does exist to varying extents depending on who you talk to, and that, like, showing your feelings and emotions as a man aren't bad, and it's used against us when we have disagreements on the left, that is a big fucking issue to me. I mean, there's also the, I mean, it happens as well. Like, there's the, creepy, I'm a feminist guy that, is sexually creepy. So it happens as well. I think this is, to a lesser extent, a version of that hypocrisy.
So it's interesting that you're talking about fragility, because I normally hear fragility talked about with, like, white fragility. And I've always liked the way that that's framed, because people like, I don't know, a family member, anytime you bring up racial issues and they say things like, "How am I bigoted?" Oh, what are you talking about? No one was even talking to you, Carol. They're showing you that they have this weird little insecurity, that if they have to accept that racism is real, it means they're a bad person. It's like this weird moralizing overhang.
Yeah.
So in that way, I think that kind of critique of fragility is good. Now,
well, I think talking about the fragility of people is definitely valid. Like, it's definitely a thing that happens. It's when we use it in an argument to invalidate somebody.
And when you say invalidate them, you mean like
Jake, you're being emotional.
Have an argument?
Like, Jake, you're being emotional. Oh. Like the fact that I have emotions means inherently that the things I have emotions about are invalid. That's the kind of thing that I fucking hate.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I get you.
When
They're trying to...
I mean, she's literally, like, calling me sexist and saying that, she said the words, when you said those words to me, it was akin to when Sargon said I wouldn't even rape you. Like, then I got very loud, and very mad. And like, "Oh, Jake, you're being emotional." What the fuck you think I'm gonna be? Nice to you?
It's kind of like, it's kind of like the worst thing to say in an argument is "calm down."
I mean, it's
like,
up there, sure, but
shit.
Yeah. It's more.
It's the same dynamic. It's saying you're being hysterical.
Sure,
calm down.
But it's more than that, because it expresses a hypocrisy that we have on the left, where we're like, we tell people it's okay to be emotional. But when someone is emotional because you were inflammatory, then it's like, nope. Like, if I'm not being inflammatory and someone just starts yelling at me, like, this happens a lot when I talk to right-leaning people, and I'm like, okay, well, I think that's kind of racist when you say it like that. And they go, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like, okay, hold on, calm down, stop yelling. Like, we'll be through this. I'm not yelling at you. It's okay. Like, that's different, right? I'm not saying you're wrong because you're yelling. I'm saying, hey, we're not going to be able to be productive, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hate the fact that there's this, I don't know, there's this double standard when it comes to, I don't know, like the fact that we wouldn't even be having the conversation if I was a woman. Like, that's bullshit. It should offend you either way if in fact the words were what offended you. the context of me being a man in that scenario doesn't seem to apply. So. Does this follow?
I don't know if I want to keep on litigating. Like, it's clear that there is some sort of a sexual dynamic, like you were talking about earlier. Like, you know, if it was a gay guy, it has this implication, whatever. So it sounds like what she's trying to say is that, and this is a total steel man, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
I do not want to defend someone I don't know the internal workings of.
Sure. I'd rather you
But,
steel manned anyway.
Right. So if I'm doing like the best possible interpretation, it's saying, well, if I was a woman and, you know, you were throwing something like that, there's no power behind it. Kind of like if a black guy calls another black guy the N-word, it's a little bit different than if I had decided to, you know, use, you know, I'm white. There's no camera. But I'm white.
I would understand.
If I did it, there's some power behind that.
See,
There's a punch back there.
I would understand that if I told her to suck my dick.
Yeah.
Right, but that wasn't it. So, like, that's what I mean. Like, I think she's trying to say dick was brought up, you are man, therefore power dynamic, but like it's very dishonest to break it down in that way, which is one of my problems with it.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a stretch to me. Yeah. I see what you mean.
This comes back to me arguing against TERFs who were attacking men that had been through domestic violence. If women don't think TERFs are the worst fucking people, man. Like, and maybe it's because it's so hypocritical, right? I'd almost rather you were just an anti than a TERF. Because at least you're consistent. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have arguments like this all the time, like with my commie friends. Like, sometimes I don't want to argue with liberals because at least if I argued with a right-winger, you know, they're not going to give me all this bullshit. They're not going to, you know, appeal to how great capitalism is and all this. They're just going to, you know, call me a cuck or whatever. Like, at least you're being fully honest and you're not trying to, you know, carry water, in other words. I don't know. It's like, what's worse, dealing with someone who's just like constantly just annoying as shit, or dealing with someone who's just going to sit there and meme you to death? Like, at least you can laugh at that person, right?
Sure.
It's not as annoying because, like you're saying, it's like the hypocrisy thing. It's like you're not as smart as you think you are.
Yeah, that's why some people mistake me for a capitalist sometimes when I say that there's value in aspects of capitalism. But really what I'm saying is there's value in aspects of capitalism until we can chip those away. Like from a social aspect. If you want to change gears for just a second here.
That's what Marx said.
Yeah, I agree he did, and that's why he like I don't know. I don't read a lot of communist literature because I like to listen to the arguments when people like actually talk about them, because it reflects the way in which they would be implemented. So I have a lot of people saying like profit is theft. Well, it can be, but is all profit theft? If I do work for you, if I do work for you and make a profit on that, is that me stealing from you? No, but hold on. You see what I'm saying? Like there is a nuance to that. Like
I just dropped a video because I noticed that you had your Discord up.
Yeah, no, I saw it. Yeah.
That's another good video. It's super short. It's Maria, formerly the witch, and she talks about that. When a communist says that, it's, you know, it's almost like the libertarian bullshit about like
depends on how we value
all taxation is.
No,
right. But
that's so.
Can I just really quick just lay out why Marx said that? Like why a profit would be theft?
Okay, sure. Go ahead, because I disagree with it, but that's fine.
Okay, so it's really, really simple. A guy, Richard Wolff, talks about it a little bit. He uses really good plain language. So what he says is, we're all aware that whenever we go to work a job, there are the value that we give, right, to that employer. If we make, you know, I don't know, $20 a day for this
right, they make a profit.
Well, hang on. But the reason they make a profit is the fact that
there's free labor.
Put it this way. Well,
I understand how it breaks down. Well, I understand how it breaks down.
Well, I don't know, because you're saying stuff that has nothing to do with what I'm about to say.
Okay, go ahead then.
Okay, so if I, for the day, give the capitalist $20 of value, they are not going to give me $20, right? Because there's no profit if they do that.
Yeah.
They have to undercut me somehow.
Mhm.
I still have created that wealth,
Right, they're
but
going
they're
to
not
give you
giving it
$15
back.
or $10, yeah.
Right, if you're lucky.
Sure, right.
So that's really all he's saying. All he's saying is we're all aware of the difference between what we produce and what we
So
receive.
that's
It necessarily has to be small. Otherwise, the capitalist who's not doing any work, usually speaking, who's not actually building widgets or whatever, this guy sitting in the office, right? If he's not doing direct labor and actually creating stuff, well, he would starve, and being a capitalist
sure,
wouldn't make any
but this
sense.
breaks down when we're not talking about labor. Or we're not talking about an A to B. So we're not talking about someone owns a business, you give them labor, because it's usually a factory, right? We usually when we think about Marx and we think about labor, we think about a factory worker, and there's this,
Sure,
there's
we
like
can
robber
update it.
baron and stuff like this. So
Yeah.
if I'm talking about profit is theft, if I give an artist $10 for a painting, is that theft? Of course, it's not theft. Do you see what I'm saying? So they're making a profit on that. It isn't theft because those two people have agreed on this specific thing. Would a worker-owned co-op that makes profit be theft? No, because they're making the exact amount they're making. So it's some profit is theft, but profit as a concept is not theft.
But there's always a value difference, right? Like if I buy a PlayStation for $200 and I go to sell it secondhand, can I get $200 for that usually? Don't I normally have to go
No, but
down?
theft implies malice to it, right? So that what you're talking about...
No. I'm sorry. Marx is not a moralist here. We can't do this.
I know. No. I know he's not.
He's not saying it's evil.
I know he's not. But
Yeah.
a lot of people
That's
who
the only one I
use
care
that
about.
line, well, sure, but he's not the one alive right now making these decisions, right? He's not the one making the argument for it today. He's the person that made the argument for it back then, and now other people are making the argument for it. When people say profit is theft, a lot of them do moralize it. A lot of them do
Exactly.
say, right, and
But
that's
I see that as a problem. I don't accept those people. I think that those people are still tainted a little bit with the liberalism, like the moralizing. That doesn't
sure,
help.
maybe, but the fact of the matter is, I still have to argue against that.
Sure.
Right?
Well, and that's all you have to do. All you have to do is say, read Marx. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, if
Okay,
you
but
wanna be that
even
edgy-
then, maybe they're not a Marxist though.
So then, who are you talking to?
I don't know. I talk to a lot of people that aren't Marxists. That like
they
they say
say-
like, oh, I'm not a Marxist. I'm a communist. Like, and they say these things and they have different disagreements with Marx or whatever. It's valid, but when they invoke something like profit is theft like that, it's got to go. Like that is not a valid thing.
I mean, I would just pick apart these premises. If they didn't get it from Marx, and they just think that profit is theft, I would just go in and I would ask them. Go ahead.
Karl Marx, get in the Discord.
Yes, right now. Karl Marx would not be on social media. He'd be like, get this shit out.
Who are self-employed people? Well, that's the idea. So theft implies
It's not someone. I'm sorry. Someone said no true Scotsman. No. If someone is being wrong, just like he's criticizing Christy and Steve, and you don't call them out, that's a problem. You're not no true Scotsmaning them if they're doing things that don't align with what you think are the right things.
Right. I don't think Brett was saying they're not actually a communist. I think they were saying they still have liberal leanings in their language.
You can be a communist and not know anything about Marx.
Right.
Look up tankies.
Right.
Like, seriously.
And so yeah, that's what I meant. Like often it is tankies that I'm arguing with by that.
Yeah, and fuck them. I mean, I think I already talked about that in the past. Fuck them. You know? I don't know what
Bucko,
to talk
your
about.
acceptance of something is a little of no. Bucko. Oh, how you consider them tainted? I'd say in the so. By the way, I think commies and socialists have a little bit of a purity testing problem as well. But that's a little bit different than what we're talking about because. For you to be a communist or a socialist, you actually do have to adhere to certain tenets to be that thing. So it's there is actually kind of a checklist involved with that.
Really?
You don't think so? You don't think that you like
When you say for you to be a communist, I don't know what that means. There's a lot of people who claim to be things that they're not.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, like
be
actually being
accepted
one, right?
as?
Actually, no. Actually being one, there are things you have to check off the list to accomplish that.
Do you have an example?
An example of how to be
Any single thing you have to check off to be considered a communist.
to be considered a
curious, I've
communist or
never
to
heard
be
this.
one?
Whatever you're saying, because to me,
Because
there's
to be
no
considered
such thing
one
as
is so-
objectively being. Go ahead.
Well, okay, so for instance, you would have public ownership of a lot of stuff, right? So you'd have like a worker co-op or something like this. You would eliminate the kind of ridiculous private ownership system that we have in capitalism.
Stalin didn't do that.
Well, yeah,
And he called himself a communist.
right. I know he called himself one, but would you say that Stalin was a communist?
I wouldn't in the sense of
Right, and that's
the
what I mean.
communism he was practicing went away from what Marx was teaching. But
Right,
that's only
and
because I
that's what I
see Marx
mean.
as incredibly valuable. But there are so many different tendencies, like
Oh, absolutely. I'm not
anarchists.
saying it's super simple. What I'm saying, like for instance,
Yeah.
to be a capitalist, you would have to, like, to say I'm a capitalist, or in an easier term, I'm a Democrat. Or like I'm for democracy. It means you're for voting. That's a thing you check off the box. You couldn't be for a benevolent dictatorship and also say that you are for democracy, right? Because you're not for democracy. So these are things
So
you have
what's
to.
the essential purity test, though? Because it sounds like you're saying the way we categorize things are based on certain characteristics. So it sounds
Well,
like
I don't
the way
know because
you're
I'm not a
using-
socialist or a communist, so I don't really know what you think would be the most pure. But I do see
Sure,
a lot
but
of. I
you're
do
saying
see a lot of.
purity test.
Right, I do
But-
see a lot of socialists and communists say, well, you're not, you're this, you're not that. I do see it a lot, and it's fine, but it's
sure,
but
it's corrective, right?
right, and I
It's
know, and what
saying-
I'm saying is it's a little bit of a purity test, but it has more of a framework to it than are you on the left, right? It's more rigid than are you a lefty, because leftism is relative to like a zeitgeist, is relative to modern day politics, is like what is left now, or what is, let's say for instance, what is right now is not what was right wing
The Overton window.
300 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not just the Overton window, but it's a more nebulous concept than I am socialist, because it means a very specific thing. So that's all I mean by that.
Socialist really doesn't. I'm sorry. I guess there's just not a lot of information, and I honestly didn't know all this shit either. So it's not like there's a problem that you don't know this. But there are a lot of people who say that they're a socialist, and what they mean is kind of weird. Like something we criticize someone like Bernie Sanders or what's her name, Elizabeth Warren. I don't think she's ever said she is, but some people will say that she's a socialist. But it's important that when you water down a term like that, it makes it a little bit harder to have a better conversation. So if I wanted to talk about, what is socialism or whatever, these are questions that we pose and we ask. And whenever we're saying something like, X person, like Unruh, for instance, I don't know if you know that, Tinky. If I wanted to say he's not a communist, what I'm doing, there's a bit of a power in there. I'm trying to say the views of this person do not align with me. Though we may both call ourselves something, this person is not a communist. Now, in Twitter or whatever, are you always going to have like a long-winded, like, well, here's what I think is actually correct? No. I mean, generally speaking, people don't have like some sort of, and it would be really nice, but like a standard flow chart, like those idiotic political values tests, if you've ever seen those. Like, we don't have a standard version of that at this point. And any attempts to do it are just shitty, because it's not as simple as it seems. I know it sounds simple because of the way people sort of affect it, right? But it's really not. And it's annoying when you get into those spaces and you're trying to figure out, like, okay, what's right, what's wrong, all that kind of thing. It seems a lot easier than it actually is. So I just wanted to push back. I don't know if I necessarily care if you understand that, but there are like 190 people, and I would like to at least have this sound of my voice going through their head, so maybe they'll consider that.
Get it.
Maybe they won't.
Right now they want to fuck Blaziken from Pokemon, but
What do you know the generation? I was just wondering, is that like Crystal Games? I don't even know. I was looking at them.
it's
Surely.
where's the
Third or
know your
fourth
meme?
gen? Third gen. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's when I dropped out.
They want to bang it. I don't know. They're fucking degenerates. We don't listen to them.
I mean, it looks like a furry, so it's pretty close. Very humanoid.
You know, whatever you're into, guys. But You canceled. Let's just
Sand
say
those
that.
claws down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Count me out, Mr. Mime. Maybe with those fucking dodgeball shoulders. Yeah, that's what I'm about. Those dodgeball shoulders. They're like actually dodgeballs.
Yeah. I haven't seen that movie.
I haven't either. Is it good? Is it good, guys?
That video they released, 2 hours of Pikachu dancing, perfect.
Yes, it was very
wholesome.
perfect. Have you not seen the naked Mr. Mime picture? Can I look that up on the internet?
God.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Where are the Twitch cops?
Mr. Mime naked. Okay, this is fine. I think.
Is it safe for life, or should I skip it?
I think it's okay.
Oh,
Are you
boy.
talking about that? Mr. Crime?
Mr. Mime naked. Let's see.
Yeah, nothing really. It didn't seem too extreme. Well, looks okay.
Oh, okay. It doesn't have parts is on the one I'm looking at. Okay,
Yeah.
it's like a cartoon. Yeah,
Alright.
that's whatever.
I
I
was-
can't
I was-
imagine that would be a problem.
I was kind of thinking this would be way worse.
Yeah, I was too. I was like, oh no. Why doesn't it have hair? Okay,
It's
whatever.
a reverse furry? Oh no. The cheeks are actually kind of a problem for me. This might be the biggest problem though.
Why is Mr. Krabs coming up?
the Jigglypuff thing.
Oh,
Wigglytuff.
those faces.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Hey, thanks, Sibelius! Which is your boy Alex. Thanks, buddy. By the way, tomorrow the episode of Christmas Days is going up. This Saturday we're actually streaming the live show. So, I don't know. Have we covered everything you wanted to cover?
I think so. How do you feel?
I feel continually more and more validated with every person I talk to, even when they disagree with me.
Good.
I was hoping I wouldn't be. It's so much easier. This is the problem, because I'm so much more comfortable with being wrong than a lot of people are, and so it would be much easier if I was just the asshole. Because then I could be like, then I could just be like, oh, I'm sorry, I did the bad, and then it would be over. But instead, I have to deal with the fact that there's so much damage happening.
Well, that is a part of being on the left.
Lopanesh, I definitely want to hear your story. If you want, I can come on and agree with you by telling my Chud story. Well, I don't necessarily need you to agree with me, but yes, I would love to hear your Chud story. I don't know. Any passing closing remarks, Brett? Thank you for the 2 hours, by the way. You didn't have to.
Oh, no problem. No, but I am gonna think. I'm gonna try and isolate something else. I can bring
What
more
does people
socialism
what
to your
people
channel.
call
On.
themselves
When I heard you
politically
talking
don't
to
their actions matter?
on the stream with Christy and Kevin, it seems like you're a bit closer. I don't know how that happened, but I'm glad to hear you're kind of more Sakti-me, past destiny.
How
I'll
that
just say
happened? Oh, I've always been that way. What does people that call themselves politically don't wait? I don't know what that meant, little captain. What does people what call themselves politically don't their actions matter?
It sounds like they're trying to say, well, if someone calls himself a communist, don't they matter? Sure, that's the subjectivity of language, right? Like over time,
yeah.
words change, sure. And that's why, you see a lot of this, like, hey, don't call yourself a communist, or you're not a real communist. It's basically trying to keep it from becoming a meme, right?
Yeah. Saoirse Roll, you did a great snipe. So you want me to be more socialism-y?
I don't want you to cosplay, but yeah, I would like you to question.
Yeah, obviously.
I would like you to question your assumptions about the system and have a more systemic view of things. Sure, yeah, that's how I feel about almost everybody.
so I'm not anti-socialist.
I
I'm
know.
just my basic.
You're not there.
Well, I'm not there because
Pragmatic is what you said.
right. I'm not there because we can't implement it until we move past a point.
And just to be clear, I'll be dead before we can.
Right, and so
I agree with you.
so I advocate for the point I think we can get to that leads us to socialism. further. And so I think we can do things like healthcare and decriminalizing drugs and education and giving people a standard of life if they're a citizen of the country, giving people a path to citizenship that would lead them to having that standard of life. I think we can do a lot of these things within my lifetime. I know we can. I don't know if we will, but I know we can. And then as automation gets to a certain point, we can be like, okay, now we can do this step, and then we can do this step. So I'm not like, when I say I see the value of capitalism, I see the value of capitalism until it doesn't have value anymore. And so that's pretty much all I'm advocating for. I just don't think that, like, we should be socialists, right? Like, today, I don't think it works, because we're not to the point where it sustains itself, and we definitely can't because of the fucking people that are like, socialism is bad. I don't think you can just push it on people.
Well, and the reason I think that is, the Mark Fisher guy I brought up earlier, he's got a work called Capitalist Realism. It's not very long. It's like 80 pages. Whatever you need me to do, if I could get you to read that book, we'll come on and we'll shit talk, whatever you need to do. Yeah, whatever you need to do, let me know. I'll do whatever. If you'll read that, it's very, very short, but basically it just makes the case for there are things that are happening and blah blah blah. I believe that we could accelerate our thing getting to socialism if people like you are in a position where, you know, you're dealing out these kinds of things to hundreds of people, sometimes more, people like Destiny, Hasan, whatever.
Sure.
If we're getting a little bit more radical, at least in how we think about things, I think we can speed things up and make things a little bit better for people a little bit quicker. And I do not trust, once we do win those things, like you were saying, like socialized medicine and things like that, how long until we have a backlash and we lose all that again? That's just what I'm worried about.
Our system, specifically the American system, is so deliberate and slow that usually.
So it needs to go.
Well, I think it has a lot of benefit. I think we need some changes. Definitely, I like the idea of getting rid of the Electoral College. I like the idea of runoff voting. I like the idea of even an expansion and change to the Supreme Court so that it is actually balanced. Although I'd love it just to be full of libtards, I understand that I'm not the only person that exists in this world, and that there are conservatives with, you know, what they perceive as genuine worry, and I have no problem with having a check on that kind of thing, and I trust in the arguments of the left enough to win those discussions, because I think they are rooted in reality. So I'm not too worried if it's like a 50-50 split or close to it. So, like, I don't think, like, having a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court seems silly. I think, like, 10 years, maybe, with 5-year terms, so they, you know, outlive a presidential election cycle, I think would be beneficial. Yeah, and maybe appointed by not the president. I feel like that has too much overlap from the executive and judicial branches. But as for our representative democracy or oligarchy or whatever the fuck you want to call it today, but it's you know, it tends towards when we don't have when we get away from this trying to win points thing that the right's been doing for the last few years, and the we'll call it the Hillary Pelosi left of the Democratic Party, when like that all goes away and it's people like my age and my, like, our generation in general in there, I feel like we're more comfortable debating because we all have platforms. This could be a pie in the sky thing, but I just feel like there's more discourse, even though it's not necessarily productive. I feel like there's whether they believe it or not, we are constantly in discourse with one another, even if it's in bad faith. And so these political tactics are kind of crumbling because they don't really work that well.
Ooh, but when something crumbles, like capitalism is constantly in decay. They're just going to reform, and there's just going to be new things. See, that's the thing.
I'm for reformation, and that's what I mean. Like, I think you can get socialism
but
light
the bad
first.
things can come in too, right?
100%.
Whenever you have
but
change,
I mean, like, how do you implement the good thing without
constant vigilance? This is the thing. That's the reason we all need to.
But you have to do it within the system, or it's.
Eesh.
If you don't do it, if you don't do it within a system, you're
always in a system, especially right now. We're in a system that builds in reasons for, like you're talking about, stalled Congress. That's like moneyed interest and things like that. It doesn't matter how good we all get. Like if tomorrow we all become commies and the system stays the same, guess what? It's going to be very, very similar. There's going to be very few changes, but we're all going to call ourselves communists.
Well, see,
it'd be useless though.
Maybe, but the idea would be that you vote those people out. Preferably in a system that allows your vote to count for many things. But
and that's the key difference, right?
Well, sure, but
money,
but
speech, and
I totally agree. Like getting money out of politics is one of the things I vote for constantly. Yeah, there's a lot of things.
It's a lot of work,
but you can't just like go like system done and push it over because you're not gonna be able to.
We've done it before.
We have. Yeah. When's the last time we did it?
Human history. Well, any revolution that's been done, they normally just throw out the old system. It seems weird, and this is what the book talks about: capitalist realism. Is there no alternative?
Well, yeah, but what's the revolution look like?
Exactly, that's the thing. It changes over time, right? And so
it's
what a lot of smarter leftist people are saying is, we need to think more about this. Like that's something Zizek says. It's kind of a weird thing for him to say, but he's always like, okay, so what happens after the revolution? You're saying, what about the revolution? A lot are asking, what after?
No, not what after. You have to get to the revolution before you can get to what after.
Sure.
So what's the revolution look like, in your opinion?
I don't know. I've got a few minds. I don't think it can necessarily be bloody. I mean, I think that's a little bit too romantic, that we could just do away with the system overnight like that. But I do believe it'll be spontaneous.
So
and
it's
I believe
spontaneous.
And I do believe that SOCDEM stuff would be able to push us to a point where capitalism, the structure is weak enough. Well, what I mean is the structure is weak enough, right, that we can finally snap it. That's what SOCDEM policies.
Right, you're saying a lot of words, but how? What's snapping mean? What does push mean? Like, how is it weakened? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what even is the system that we are snapping? Like, do you see what I'm saying?
We're talking about neoliberal capitalism. Like, okay, I can be more specific.
You need to be more specific, because what it sounds like is kind of platitudinous.
Okay, sure. So basically, you've got the neoliberal capitalism, all the contradictions within it that it's constantly trying to overcome, labor shortages, and the general mix-up. So in those small spaces, if you have SOCDEM policies that are coming in, that could undermine some of the stuff. Like,
so SOCDEM policies
people back into certain work. Go ahead.
SOCDEM policies via.
Oh, it'd have to be electoral politics if that's what you're asking.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's what a policy is. How is that not
you're
clear?
working through the system to get rid of the system. Yes, we are on the same page.
Right.
You literally have to. Not even in a way.
It's a means to an end for me.
Sure,
I'm
not saying
make that clear.
Sure, but I'm just saying, like, so if I say we work through the system, it means, and I want to get rid of the electoral college. I use the electoral college to get to the point where I can get rid of it. Like, I'm just working in the system, even if I'm getting rid of it. So I literally am working in the system. I'm not saying keep the system. I'm saying use the system until you get what you need, and then you can replace that with another thing. You don't have to get rid of it. You don't just say, like, democracy's over. You literally just say, like, you have to work, you have to do incremental steps. This is why I'm not saying I'm a socialist, because I'm not today. Because tomorrow we can't be socialist. Tomorrow we can be closer. And that's why I advocate for the things I advocate for, because it's not possible to get to the place.
Yeah. So think about it. Whatever your request is to get you to read that book, I will do my best to fulfill it. If there is such a thing that I can do, let me know.
Okay. Sounds good. All right.
Appreciate the time.
Yeah. Do you have anything to pimp?
I wish. I don't really have a platform.
All right. Brett's a normie. Everyone give Brett corn in chat for a good discussion.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Have a good night, buddy.
You too.
I'm gonna put you in debate, or are you just gonna hang out?
Yeah, I'll go on debate.
Okay.